Welcome to the IELTS Listening Lab. Listen, practice, improve, and succeed.
Before you listen, you now have 30 seconds to read questions 1 to 10.
Hello, Westside Community Arts Centre. Arthur speaking. How can I help you?
Hi, Arthur. My name is Brenda. I'm calling to register for one of your pottery courses starting next month.
Great. Let me get the registration form up on my screen. We have a few different options. Are you interested in throwing on the wheel? Or did you want the course on building techniques by hand?
Definitely the hand building one, please. I tried the wheel once and found it quite difficult.
Understood. The class is officially called Introduction to Hand Building. Now, we have 2 sessions for that. There's one on Monday evenings and another on Wednesday mornings. Which suits you better?
Mondays are always very busy for me at work, so I'll go with the Wednesday class.
Excellent. Let me take down your details. Can I have your first name first, please?
It's Julian, spelled Julian.
Thanks, Julian. And your surname?
It's Maldonado. That's Maldonado.
Got it. And what's your address, Julian? Just the street name and number is fine.
I live at 94 Garside Street.
Could you spell Garside for me?
Sure. It's Garside.
And your postcode?
It's PL6, 8YT.
Great, thank you. I also need to note down your current occupation, just for our demographic records for community funding.
Sure, I'm an architect.
Oh, fascinating. Now, about the fees. The total cost is £180, but to secure your place you need to pay a deposit today. The standard deposit is £45, and the remaining balance is due on the first day of class.
That's fine. I can pay the £45 over the phone now by card.
Perfect. Before we do that, we always like to ask how you heard about our art centre. Was it through our social media page?
Actually, I was looking for a book in the local library last week and noticed a flyer on the notice board there.
Ah, the library notice board. Brilliant. Finally, do you have any special requirements, or is there anything else you need from us?
Yes, I travel straight from work, so I'll have a large bag with me. Will I be able to use a locker to store my things during the class?
Yes, absolutely. We have those available free of charge in the corridor. I will reserve one for you. Let's proceed to the payment details now.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers. Before you listen, you now have 30 seconds to read questions 11 to 20. Welcome, everyone, to the Greenwood Community Garden. My name is Clara, and I'm the volunteer coordinator here. It's wonderful to see so many new faces today. Before we start our tour, I'd like to give you a bit of background about how this space came to be, what we do here, and how you can get involved. Our garden was established 5 years ago. Originally, this plot of land was occupied by an old railway depot that had been abandoned for decades. The local council initially planned to turn it into a multi-story car park, but a group of local residents petitioned against it. They successfully argued that our neighborhood lacked green spaces, and after a year of negotiations, the council agreed to lease the land to our community group. When we first took over, the soil was in a terrible state, packed with gravel and old building materials. It took us nearly 18 months of hard work, just to clear the rubbish and enrich the soil before we could plant a single seed. Today, we have over 50 raised beds, an orchard, and a dedicated wildlife pond. Our primary objective has always been education. While we love growing organic vegetables and fruits, our main goal is to teach urban residents where their food comes from and how to live more sustainably. We regularly host workshops for local primary schools, where children get their hands dirty planting seeds and learning about composting. We also run a community cafe on site. The cafe is open every weekend and serves tea, coffee, and home-baked cakes made with ingredients grown right here in the garden. All the profits from the cafe go directly back into funding our educational programs and buying tools. Now, let me tell you about some of our volunteer opportunities. We have general gardening sessions every Saturday morning from 9 till noon. You don't need any prior experience. Our regular volunteers are always happy to show you what to do. If you're interested in helping out in other ways, we are also looking for volunteers to run our weekly storytelling sessions for toddlers in our outdoor classroom. And we always need people to help with maintaining our website and social media pages. Now, if you want to join us as a regular volunteer, there are a few simple steps to follow. First, you need to complete our online registration form. Once we receive that, you will be invited to attend an induction session, which we hold on the first Tuesday of every month. It's essential that you bring suitable footwear, such as sturdy boots, as the ground can be very uneven and muddy. We will provide all the necessary safety equipment, including gloves and tools. Finally, once you've completed your induction, you will be assigned a mentor, who will guide you through your first 3 volunteering sessions. And as a small thank you, everyone who completes those initial 3 sessions receives a free hat to wear while they are working in the garden. It's a great way to build confidence and learn the ropes. Now, let's head outside to see the garden itself. That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers. Before you listen, you now have 30 seconds to read questions 21 to 30. Hi Diana, hi Felix. This is Emma. Thanks for coming to this tutorial to discuss your environmental science project. How has the field work been going?
Hi Emma. Well, we've completed the first phase of our water quality study on the River Ouse. It was quite an adventure.
It certainly was. I think we both underestimated how difficult it would be to find suitable sampling sites. Some parts of the riverbank were completely overgrown, and others were on private land where we couldn't get permission.
Yes, we spent hours just walking along the river trying to find 5 accessible spots. The testing equipment itself was actually quite straightforward to use once we got the hang of it, and the terrain wasn't too bad, just a bit muddy.
That's a common issue with fieldwork. But you managed to get your samples in the end. Now, I understand you've decided to alter your research focus slightly. Why is that?
Yes, initially, we wanted to measure a wide range of chemical pollutants, including agricultural runoff. But we quickly realized that to get accurate chemical readings, we'd need to send samples to a specialized laboratory, which we simply didn't have the budget or resources for. So we decided to shift our focus to looking at macroinvertebrates, essentially, river insects, as bioindicators of water health.
That's a very sensible adjustment. Studying bioindicators is much more practical for a project of this scale. What do you think of their new research question, Diana?
I think it's much better. Our updated question is, how does the diversity of macroinvertebrates vary between agricultural and forested sections of the River Ouse?
I like it. It's highly specific and, importantly, it's very achievable within your tight time frame. You have 6 weeks before the submission deadline, which is plenty of time to analyze this kind of data.
That's reassuring. We also got some interesting insights from the local farmers we spoke to while requesting access to the river. I was really surprised by how much effort they are putting into reducing chemical runoff. I expected them to be somewhat defensive, but many of them have planted buffer strips of trees along the river to catch fertilizer before it reaches the water.
Yes, they were incredibly supportive. They even showed us their maps of land use, which was extremely helpful.
That's wonderful to hear. So, what are your immediate next steps?
Well, we've finished all our sampling, so we don't need to do any more trips to the river. Before we start writing anything, though, we need to make sense of the insect counts we recorded. We have a lot of raw numbers, but we aren't sure how to analyze them statistically. So we've booked a meeting with a statistician from the University Support Unit tomorrow morning to guide us.
Yes, once we have that sorted, we can start drafting the introduction.
Excellent. Let's talk about the final report and how you're going to divide the work. You'll need to share the responsibility fairly. What about the literature review?
We've already started reading some papers. Felix, do you want to write that section? You've already got a great bibliography started.
Actually, Diana, since you've read more of the papers on bioindicators specifically, I think it would make more sense if you handled the literature review yourself. I can focus on writing up the methodology description, since I took all the notes on our field protocols and site coordinates.
That sounds like a fair split. I'll take the literature review, and you do the methodology.
Good. What about the data visualization? You'll need some clear graphs and tables to show the insect diversity.
I think we should both work on that. We need to decide together which graphs represent the data most clearly, rather than one of us doing it in isolation.
I agree. We can sit down together next week and design the charts.
Perfect. And what about the discussion section, specifically the part where you discuss the limitations of your study?
Well, I have some strong views on how our sampling was limited by seasonal factors, so I'd really like to write the limitations section.
That's fine by me. I'm happy for you to take charge of that part.
Great. And finally, the future recommendations for further research.
I've already got some ideas about how future studies could look at seasonal variations, which we couldn't do. I'd love to write up that final recommendation section.
Go for it, Felix. That works out perfectly.
Excellent. It sounds like you have a solid plan. That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers. Before you listen, you now have 30 seconds to read questions 31 to 40.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm George, and today we're going to examine the history and development of sound insulation in residential architecture, focusing on how building designs have adapted to control noise pollution over the past century. To begin, we must understand that noise was not always the significant issue it is today. Prior to the Industrial Revolution, most residential buildings in urban areas were constructed using heavy materials like stone, brick, and solid timber. These dense materials naturally possessed excellent acoustic properties, effectively blocking out external noise. However, as cities rapidly expanded in the early 20th century, construction methods shifted. The demand for rapid, low-cost housing led to the widespread adoption of lightweight materials, such as hollow concrete blocks and thin plasterboard. While these innovations made building construction much faster and cheaper, they had a disastrous effect on sound insulation, allowing sounds from neighbors and the street to easily penetrate living spaces. By the mid-1930s, the first scientific studies into building acoustics began to emerge. Researchers realized that noise could be transmitted in two distinct ways: airborne noise and impact noise. Airborne noise refers to sounds like speech, music, or traffic, which travel through the air before vibrating a wall or ceiling. Impact noise, on the other hand, is physical sound generated by an object striking a surface, such as footsteps on a floor or a door slamming. In response to these findings, engineers developed the concept of the double wall or cavity wall to combat airborne noise. This design features two separate leaves of masonry with an air gap between them. The air gap acts as a barrier, preventing sound vibrations from passing directly from one wall to the other. To make this even more effective, builders began placing sound-absorbing materials inside the cavity. Initially, they used natural substances such as mineral wool or even seaweed, which was surprisingly effective. Today, specialized fiberglass and acoustic foam are more commonly used. Impact noise, however, required a different solution. Since physical impacts vibrate the structural elements of a building directly, simply adding a cavity wall was insufficient. Engineers realized they needed to decouple the floor from the underlying joists. This led to the invention of the floating floor. In a floating floor system, the walking surface is not nailed or screwed directly to the subfloor. Instead, it rests on a resilient underlayment made of rubber, cork, or felt. This underlay layer absorbs the mechanical energy of footsteps, preventing the vibration from traveling down through the ceiling below. In the latter half of the 20th century, governments began to introduce building regulations to standardize acoustic performance. In the United Kingdom, for instance, the first official building regulations containing specific requirements for sound insulation between dwellings were introduced in 1965. These regulations set minimum standards for the airborne sound insulation of party walls, the walls shared by adjacent properties. Over the decades, these standards have become progressively stricter, driven by growing public awareness of the health impacts of chronic noise exposure, which include sleep disturbance, elevated blood pressure, and increased stress levels. In modern sustainable architecture, the challenge of sound insulation has taken on a new dimension. Today's architects must balance acoustic control with environmental sustainability. Many traditional high-performance acoustic materials are petroleum-based and difficult to recycle. Consequently, there is currently a surge of interest in organic alternatives. Materials such as compressed straw, hemplime, and recycled cotton are being extensively tested. These natural fibers not only provide excellent thermal insulation, but their porous structures are also highly efficient at trapping sound waves, offering a sustainable path forward for the future of urban building design.
That is the end of the listening test. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers.